Hello, and welcome to Magic is Real, a podcast focused on the fascinating world of near-death experiences, spirit communication, and all things metaphysical and spiritual. The mission of this project is to share messages of hope and inspiration with others, and to spread the word that death is only an illusion. Thank you for being here with an open heart and mind. I wish you peace, light, and love always. Hello, and welcome to Magic is Real. I'm here today with Pamela Johnson. This beautiful woman is coming to us from Hawaii. Pamela Johnson is here because her beloved husband, Alan, passed away in 2020. And after he passed, she began to receive messages from him. Now the two of them work together interdimensionally. They are writing a book together. She's able to channel and work with him in spirit and have a relationship with him in spirit. She and he have been the founders of a Facebook group that is for people who have lost their soulmates, their partners, and that is called soulmatesintheafterlife.com. And you can join that if you are somebody that has lost a loved one and wants to learn how to communicate with your loved one on the other side. Pamela Johnson, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having us. It's exciting. You're our first podcast that we're doing. We've done online summits. We have online summits for near-death experience, actually, because I've had a near-death experience on top of a lot of other things that have happened. But that's kind of how I actually met Alan, because that led to an awakening. So,
and Alan was a psychic medium. Is that correct?
Yes. He was a natural-born medium who grew up in London during World War II and would feel spirit in his room when he was a child and was totally terrified. He would feel his body expand to fill the room and then contract to be tiny in a corner, and then felt spirit around him, and it was terrifying him. He'd cry, and his mother would come in the room and try to comfort him. But that happened throughout his life. But he kind of shut off from that and didn't pursue mediumship or anything. But he always had that ability. So later in life is when he opened up to that. And it was more after he had his full life and ran companies of his own, and he just went that whole the normal way of living, right? Like just making money and supporting a family. But
was he doing that full time, working
yes,
as a psychic
he
medium?
was. Oh well, he started to work full time after, I'd say, let me see now, like probably late 40s when his business was going, and he started to look into it a bit. I don't know. I don't remember him telling me why that prompted him, but he always had the ability, and he went for a reading at one point, and the woman said to him that he would be doing this work one day. And he didn't quite understand that. He just thought, okay, but that is what happened. And he became friends with a woman named Barbara Narbeth, who was, I think her professional name was Barbara Allen at the time, but her ability, she had strong abilities as a psychic medium. I believe she once did mediumship readings for the royal household, not the royal family, but the royal household. So she was in her day a bit well known in England, and she took him under her wing because they met at a psychic fairs that they would have in England, and they become good friends. And he began to work with her, and that's how I came to meet him when they came to Hawaii. It happened just really at the last minute because they had been traveling to Hong Kong on a regular basis to do readings there. Because there's a strong, at least at that time, there was a strong British expat community. So they would go into Hong Kong and do a lot of readings, and that was their plan. But on this particular occasion, it just fell through for some reason. They didn't have bookings for them, so they decided, well, let's go to Hawaii. And Alan actually didn't want to come to Hawaii. And Barbara was like, what? Incredulous. Who doesn't want to come to Hawaii?
Right.
I mean, really? He said no. He was actually a bit nervous of what might happen. He said later, And I easily sensed that something's going to happen, and it did, because that's how we met. But I had always been living in Hawaii. I've been born and raised on the island of Oahu in Kailua. My grandmother was a psychic medium and channel. I
Oh,
didn't
interesting.
even know this until after she passed. And when I opened up and started to hear spirit, when my mother came to me and said that her mother, my grandmother, had come to her and said, "What's happening to Pam is totally normal. She's like me. So don't worry, just support her and she'll be fine." So from that point on, my mother, who was normally very much a worrier, like a lot of moms can be, right? She was my biggest fan, totally believed in me. Whatever I told her, she had faith in, until the day she left this world. So I was lucky in that. But again, I didn't know that my grandmother had been a psychic. She was apparently so strong that she would be able to look at somebody's hand. Now, I don't know if she was a palmist. I don't get that she studied palmistry at all, but she'd hold somebody's hand and tell them when they're going to die. My goodness, for my goodness. I mean, I can't believe she did that.
Yeah.
But my aunt, who was the oldest and remembers, said that she was right, and she'd do readings in her community there on Kauai in Hanapepe. But when the war started, World War II started, she of course decided she had to stop that, because you can't really draw attention to yourself, and stop doing readings. But she was always very spiritual, and at her church, or whatever her Japanese church was that she went to, she would go kind of into trance, or at least semi-trance, and talk, and wouldn't remember what she said, and everybody would applaud and say that was wonderful. And my grandmother didn't know what she said, but she was a really, let's just say, a strong woman. And when I met Alan, she came through and scolded him for driving too fast, because he had been driving too fast. And at the time I was pregnant, so she also scolded him about that and said, "I know you want a girl, but get over it. It's going to be a boy." Everybody else was telling him it was going to be a girl, and she said, "It's going to be a boy," and it was. It was a boy.
Wow.
She and only one other person guessed right, or predicted
New.
right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's my story of growing up in Hawaii. But I lived a really conventional life until the age of about 35, when I just took a channeling course and took right to it, and it just changed my life. So I started channeling intensely for almost 6 months, like every day, for at least 45 minutes to an hour, maybe longer. I'd get anybody who would come to my house to sit down, and I would channel for them, and I'd bring through messages. And I just loved it. I just felt connected to God, to Source. I wasn't religious. My parents were not religious. My father was Buddhist, but he never talked about it. I didn't even know what Buddhism was. I didn't even know anything about that till much later. And I certainly didn't know my father was a Buddhist, because he never talked about it. So when I had that experience of channeling, and it just felt right to me, and I went all in with it, just things started happening, and I at one point just totally opened up and became telepathic, and could tell people their dreams, like like to the detail, which scared people, of course. If somebody tells you, "Well, I know what you dreamt and this is what it was about," people were amazed and then horrified. And I couldn't believe that I was doing these things. And I was so out there that I realized that I had to come down. I had to get grounded, because I was way up there. I was wise enough to know that if I really got to up there, that I needed to contact two friends that I really trusted. I had at the time, and I did contact them both. And both of them said, "Yeah, I think you need to come back. I think you need to put in some earth time. I think you need to turn it all off. Not put it away, just turn it off for a while, and just spend time here," which is what I did. And it took about a year for me to integrate all that. And in that time, I couldn't work, and I didn't know how I was going to support myself, because I had to leave the job I had. As a lot of people know who open up suddenly, you can't seem to function in your 9 to 5 kind of life anymore. But for some reason, I wasn't afraid. I just felt elated. I just felt blissed out. And I wasn't afraid at all. And sure enough, an ex-boyfriend of mine called me up one day and said, I heard what happened to you through a mutual friend, and I want to support you. And I happen to be working at a job right now and I make good money, and I'm going to help you. And he gave me $1,000 a month for almost a year. Now, back in 87,
Oh, yeah, that's a lot of
that's a
money.
lot of money. That's enough money.
Yeah.
Now that won't pay for, hardly your food, right?
It's not
But
even my rent. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, not even rent. But back then, $1,000, and I had people actually contact me, weird, just contact me or meet me and say, I feel you're my teacher. Can you teach me? And I said, what do I have to teach you? I don't know what I don't know, they'd say, but I feel you're my teacher. So I had clients like almost right away who would come over. One person, I coached her for months. I believe she paid me like 400 a month. I can't remember, but again, the money was coming in and I'm getting supported, and I was just doing this work, but I wasn't wanting to be like a psychic or even necessarily wanting to be a professional channel. It was just what was coming to me, and I loved it, so I just went forward with it. And one thing led to another, but in the end, I started working at psychic fairs. Like I ended up at psychic fair, and I wasn't even there to do readings. I was just helping my friend sell her crystal jewelry because she was my friend. And I get asked by the producer of the fair, would you like to work at the fair? And I said, oh, okay. And I found out later that it was really hard to get into the fair. Like people were asking him all the time. And somebody asked me, how did you get in? And I said, well, he just asked me. And they said, that doesn't happen. I said, well, it happened to me. And I started working at these fairs. And I think the first or second time I did, I met the people who would soon be the owners of the New Age store that I would come to work at, where it still exists today, where our son now works. But that store was where I met Alan. And they came to me for a reading after looking at everybody at the fair. They both came to me and said, we're going to have a reading with you. And I told them about the store, how they would do. And when they opened the doors of the store, I went in to congratulate them. And I heard my guide say, ask them if they need help in the store. And I asked the owner, Martin, and he said, well, yeah, we do. Would you like to work here? And I said, I guess I do. I didn't even know what I was getting into. I said, I guess I do. And soon after that, the store started offering readings. They didn't do that in the beginning. We kind of slipped into that, like under the radar of the mall,
Yeah.
like started doing reading. And I began to produce psychic fairs with them, and then did that on my own for a while, produced other psychic events. I've done some, not a lot of production, but I've done different things. I've produced psychic fairs at a mall, a Windward Mall, and on Oahu, and those things, opportunities just came to me, and some people in the beginning said, well, are you a witch? And I said, I don't know, what does that mean? These things were just happening to me. Oh, Alan's laughing at me because he's saying, remember the time I was approached by somebody to join their coven? That's true. Somebody came to me when I was helping my friend again with the jewelry, the crystal jewelry, and he wanted to give me these books. And I saw in my clairvoyance, I saw the books were on fire, and I said, what kind of books are you talking about? And I realized it was like satanic or something, or coven or something. And I said, no, thank you, I don't need that. But he said, but I can see your power. I said, I'm sure you can, but I still don't want your book. So I had really bizarre things like that happen, and through it all, it was quite magical. And then I met Alan, and that just clicked. And that said, we didn't have the perfect relationship, and I wasn't sure for a long time why. And that's why when he came back, and I was confused because I thought, not just that he came back. I mean, that I understood. Okay, spirit can come back, but like why? Like what? I don't understand what we went through. Like I had to figure that out. He had to explain that to me, why we had the problems we had. And I didn't understand that. It took a while. That's why we ended up writing the book we did, because he told me, I needed to write the story, that he would reveal things as I wrote it. So from literally from the day after he passed, he started communicating to me. And I didn't have trouble believing it was him. I had trouble believing that he actually loved me because I hadn't felt loved.
Mm.
So I was really skeptical, and I didn't realize I had so much anger about things that he had done or not done. A lot of it was what he didn't do, like not be attentive, not be um, caring or present even. And I didn't understand why he was so detached emotionally. And so I had to deal with the loss of him and then understanding, well, who are you now? And what does this mean? And what can we have? And dealing, processing with my emotions, dealing with that. But I did know that was him. There was just too many things happening because he was appearing to other people too. So that I knew was real because I wasn't making that up, that he was talking to other people, showing up to other people, and he just said, I'm back in your life to give you what I couldn't give you when I was here. And it was supposed to be this way. And I said, what? It was supposed to be this way. We were supposed to have a relationship that kind of missed the mark, that I let you down, and I didn't let him down so much. I did hurt him once, and it's in the book about that. But he said we had to have a relationship that more people could relate to, because what good would it be if we had this perfect relationship, completely perfect, right? Storybook relationship, and I return to you, and we reconnect, and people would say, "Well, that's good for you. You guys were like perfect soulmates," but I didn't have that with my partner. Most people don't have an idyllic relationship. And he's saying, and they're not supposed to. Like there are
Right.
reasons for that. It's not supposed to be a fairy tale. On the other side it is, but you come here, you agree to have those problems. You agree to work out certain things and learn from them. Or even in our case, have those problems and then teach from them. Say like, well, this is why, when we're in a body, why we need to learn how to be vulnerable. We need to learn how to balance the needs of the ego with the needs of the soul. And who is going to win out, right? Who is really driving the bus in our life? Is it our soul? Is it the ego? He let his ego kind of run amok. And but he was set up for that though, because his his way was like he was had the attitude of like a king, like, and he's laughing. He's saying a lot of men have that. Come in with this king mentality of like I was a king in another life and everybody should serve me and bow down to me. And the king needs to realize that he needs to put aside his crown and work in service like everyone else to others. The king isn't here to rule everybody. The king is here to serve his people, to be, yeah, he's saying to be the servant to the people, not to be the dictator of the people, which is what we still see in the world right now, right? With dictators. But so we went through all that, and I just kept having these prizes handed to me about, okay, this is why we went through that, and this is who you are, and all that. And he said, yeah, and we went through this to teach other people how to reach the veil and to write a sort of unofficial manual, if you will. It's not really a manual, but to give our story, because no one's really shared a story like this. Yes, other people have had relationships with loved ones on the other side and still do through the veil. I know, I've read a few books, but he said, but nobody's really gone all in and said, and this is how it was, and this is how it was messy, and this is how we worked it out. This is how we got it together and then dropped the ball again, or it fell apart again. And this is how we put it back together and figured out the final piece. And even now, we're still figuring it out. We're still learning. We're still evolving it, because you don't ever stop evolving. And not even when you cross over, right? You just keep going. There's no end. So he said, though, that we were here to help other people make direct contact. And we would do it through learning how to do it ourselves. And like I said, I'm still learning. I've come a long way and have taught people to do that, but there's still more to come, because I think you understand that the consciousness is changing and things are shifting and people are ready for this. I was just shocked that there's so many people having similar experiences. Some of them are having even more profound experiences with their loved one in spirit. And yet, when I sit in on a mediumship class, and they're wonderful, don't get me wrong, I'm not putting down medium. My husband was a medium. That said, he's reminding me that he was always rather skeptical about mediumship because he knew that it was possible to read the dead, just read their energy, and give the client all this information about the loved one because it's there in the aura of the client. So he said, and he was always asking people when he'd meet somebody who's a medium and say, how do you know you're really talking to the dead and not reading the client? And a lot of them would just shrug it off. Nobody gave him the answer. Even people who were teaching mediumship didn't give him the answer. And he was always like, see, see. And then when he crossed over, one night he told me to look on YouTube, and he had me find a video by a medium who was talking about this. And he said, I want you to listen to her. So she was saying the same thing. She said, it's possible to read the client and read the energy of the dead, but not be talking to the deceased person. And you have to train how to do that. And it takes a while. This is not something simple. And he said to me that it's a slippery slope because if you're a medium and you want to do the work, you want to help the client, and it's easy to slip into trying to read their energy, read the deceased person because it's all there. I can tell you how he died. I can tell you this and that. But getting the actual message from deceased is something else. He even had me, well, okay, I have to back up a bit. He didn't want me to go to mediums. He said only direct contact is what's going to work for us. But once I decided I would go for have a reading, right? And I said, I'm confused about what you're telling me. I just need to ask somebody. And so I booked it, had the session. In the end, the medium I know was talking to him. I know she wasn't reading me. I know that. She was talking to him, and he gave her all the wrong information. And so when she'd tell me, and I'd say, no, because it was true. Like, no, that's not who he was. No, that didn't happen. She was getting really flustered and upset at me. And I was saying, well, I wouldn't get upset. I just said no. And I realized later that he was messing with her because he didn't want me to have a reading. But I could tell that she was actually trying to talk to him. And even with her, she started to try to read him, like the energy of him, not talk to him. I could see that. He showed me, he said, see what I mean? It's a slippery slope. Because if you have a client, you want to deliver. Or if you're going to be, on the up and up, you should refund their money because you're not talking to them. Yes, you're giving them information they know, but this isn't communication. He said, do you see why I want you to have direct contact with me? Do you see why this is more important? And also because, Pam, this can happen now. It couldn't happen even, he said, 5, 10, maybe years ago. I mean, it has happened. He says it's happened throughout history. But if we're talking about happening on a broader scale, humanity is more ready for it now because people are more open now. And so part of the reason why we wrote our book was to share this story and to get people to understand that this might be already happening to them and that they're not crazy. And that if they start talking about it, because he said to me, it's important for you to share your experience, to talk about it, because when you do, you make me real in this world. If you keep it inside your head, you never talk about it, it's like it's just there in the ethers. But when you share your story and other people share theirs, or you all talk about it, your words make things manifest. And I can be more present. So it's important that you share and that you encourage other people to share their story and talk about it and make their loved one real, because they are real. And I could understand that. I could relate to that. So all along, the journey with him was always about being of service. It was always about that. It wasn't just about, I want to be with him. I do want to be with him, of course. I mean, that's the primary thing for me. But But just as important to me was, all right, being of service and helping people to reach through the veil, heal their grief, understand their loved one is with them. And he said, it's so funny. He was saying from the beginning, yes, I want to do what I can to prove that we're immortal. And I said, oh, not any small goal, right? That you're taking on here. You just want to prove that we're immortal. He goes, right. I want to prove that in my own way. He says, I want to prove that. But more importantly, he says, I want to encourage other people to prove it to themselves by having that direct contact and learning to trust what they're feeling, their experience, because it's not always easy for people, as you probably know, not always easy for them to see the other side or see their loved one in spirit, or even maybe to hear them, although a lot of times they do, and then they dismiss it and go, I'm talking to myself, when they actually are talking to them. But the other side is really good at helping us feel their love. So he was always focused on projecting his love so I'd feel it, because for me at least, I didn't feel loved by him, and he was just bombarding me with love. So I said, well, this is real because I cannot make this up. I can't make myself feel loved. I mean, if we all could, wouldn't we all do that? I'll just make myself feel loved and then I'll be happy. No, you can't. You can love yourself, yes, but this is different when somebody's actually broadcasting their love, sending it to you, and therefore he's showing me kind of igniting your love, your self-love, because now there's this union happening of energy of heart and soul. So he was really big on that, and we still tell people to focus on feeling their loved one first, and the other things will kind of click in. But if you saw them, that's just seeing them. Like, what does that do? Okay, I see, even if they appeared as a hologram or
An
transparent, right? You go,
apparition.
yeah, I see them, but that's cool, but there's nothing else happening, right, to see them. Or even if you hear them, okay, that's great. I hear them, notice them, but you want the whole thing, of course. Of course, we all do. But he said, most of all, you want to feel loved because you can't make that up. But seeing them, you might discount it or say, I just saw something imaginary and it disappeared, and I heard what I heard and I don't know if that's him or her. But when you feel that, it he says it just soothes your whole being and it makes you feel complete. And then the other things you can start to lean into, that can start to kind of happen. But it takes time to do this, and people in our group, they come in and they're like, it's so funny. They just say, all right, I want to do this. Like, how do I do this? Like right now, like chop chop. Let's just get to it. And I get it. Like I was very much wanting to experience this right away, but I knew from my years of being a channeler, psychic healer, that okay, this is going to take time. This is not something you just pull out a book or even take a course and then are able to do that. So I get it, but I tell them you have to work on yourself, because ultimately our loved ones in spirit, they're pure love now. Yes, they're still themselves. They still have learning to do. Some of them are still healing. It's not like they become enlightened. They're still growing. They may, in fact, need a lot of healing because it depends on what they went through when they were in a body. But still, they drop their ego. So they're freer. They're more able to love us. They see the bigger picture. And we need to try to come close to their vibration. Not that we're expected to be perfect, because they're not perfect, but we need to do our best to kind of really quiet our ego and raise our self-love and heal whatever wounds we have or trauma, limiting beliefs and all that. So I tell people, I see grief as a path really of enlightenment or even toward ascension, because we're working toward the fifth dimension, all of us as a planet, right? We're moving toward the fifth dimension, which is of love. So what does that mean? You've got to release anything that is not of love, your beliefs, your self-condemnation, self-judgment, and then you're more of a match to your partner on the other side, and it's easier to connect. Whereas if you're not, if your energy is denser and just heavier, it's hard. It's almost like you can't lift off. Like you just keep being pulled back because your fear, especially if people are afraid of the afterlife. That's not going to allow you to have contact if you're afraid of that. But um, I think that anything is possible now. I really feel that. That's what Al was saying to me. And our story is not just about us helping people through the veil, therefore, it's about showing people that they're here to grow and evolve and live their own life with their partner, but not live for the partner, as some of them want to do, but live their own life with their partner. If the partner wants them to go forward and have a full enriched life with them right there, but not staying at home, just pining away or just wanting to talk to him or her all the time. Just get out and live, have fun,
That's
and
something I wanted to
enjoy.
ask you about in a you can fit I didn't want to interrupt you, but I wanted
No,
to
go
ask you about
ahead.
that too.
Go ahead.
Um,
We can talk about that.
yeah, I two things. Well, I have a bunch of questions too, but one of the questions I have is because you have this close relationship with your husband in spirit, um, how have you navigated sort of going back out in the world? I'm sure he'd be like, go date other people. And, you don't have to share if you're dating or not, but like, do you feel ready or have you dated outside and still been able to maintain that relationship? And do you think a new partner would be like, this is a threesome. This is not just a one-on-one. How would you navigate
Well,
dating while still, I mean, it's nice to have that connection, but how does it affect your current dating life?
I don't really have a dating life.
Yeah. Yeah. But if it did, let's just say if you did.
Well, let's just say for most of the people that I know, like myself, who have this contact, they intend to remain in that relationship. That's not to say that someone can't do that and that their
Yeah.
loved one would support that, because that does happen. I've heard about that a lot. That's an option. At the same time, there are couples, partners, let's say, who decide that, okay, this is my primary relationship. You know what I mean? I mean, if
Yeah.
you've met your soulmate, you know that person is the love of your life. You know that, okay, I might meet somebody else and have another relationship, but no one's going to replace this person
Yeah.
because this person was the one. And that's it for me. And people should be encouraged to do that if that's what they want. If they don't want that, totally fine. Meet somebody else. Your partner probably set you up with that other person.
Yeah.
But when Alan came back to me, he said, I want to give you the relationship I wasn't able to give you. And he had such remorse about how he had dropped the ball and how we never had the amazing, loving relationship we could have had. And he said, I can give that all to you now. I just won't have a body. And I said, how does
Hmm.
that work? He says, I'll show you, but it's possible. And I said, all right. And he did. So I would say, to be honest with you, I don't think any man in a body would ever hold a candle to my husband in spirit, because he does give me everything. I mean, everything, showing me everything in capital letters, except that he doesn't have a physical body.
Right.
Remember, we're energy beings. So what does that mean? That means that they can affect us, connect with us, even if it's a partner, pleasure us, you name it, they can do that. Can they all do that all at once right now as soon as they cross over? Not necessarily, but they can learn that, and there's some of that. And he's laughing at me saying that being dead gives you a lot of time on your hands. So there's a lot we can practice on if our partner is open to that. And I know of people, women, mostly it's mostly women, who are having these experiences. Some of it's happening, let's say, on an astral level, like when they go astral traveling, or like I said to you earlier, in a lucid dream, because that is actually real. I've actually have seen Alan in lucid dream a few times. I haven't gone more into lucid dreaming to connect with him, only because I've had so much going on. He told me, could just put that aside right now because you got this going on and this going on and that going on with the book. But I'm planning to go back to that because I know that that's connecting with him. I did experience a partial lucid dream with him where I felt his arms. For some reason, it was his arms. And he's telling me that I focused on his arms because when he was near the end of his death, before he died, I was caring for him. He had dementia. And, he was rather frail, and I had to lift him by his arms, like to help him bathe and things like that. And he says that I still have this memory of his arms at the end of his life. And he didn't like that I remembered his arms being frail, right? And the blood vessels were broken because when you get old and the skin is so thin, it's easy for the blood vessels to break, right? He didn't like that. So I had this dream where I felt his arms and it was silky. I mean, I could still feel it, like it was silky. So it was more real than this world. And as I said to you earlier, the dream world is really the in-between place. Because if this world isn't real, well, what does that make the dream world? It's one step closer to the unseen world. It isn't the other side, but it's getting close to that. And so he's saying to me that they can meet us in that place, just like they could meet us astrally, or they can meet us in the lucid dream state. So he did show up a couple of times. But the one time that was really vivid, unfortunately, when it happened, he said to me, "I'm sorry, you have to wake up now." And I said, "No, why?" "Because you have an appointment to take the car in to be serviced and you're going to miss it." And I was like, "Oh no." And I woke up, and sure enough, if I'd kept dreaming, I would have missed the appointment. So you can definitely connect with them in the lucid dream state and have whatever experience you want with them. People are having lucid dreams and having sex with people in dream. Why can't you have sex with your loved one in spirit? Of course you can. But nobody who's written a book about lucid dreaming is going to tell you that the lucid dream state, in that state, that you can connect with your deceased loved one. They're just not going to tell you that. If
Right.
anybody has read a book that said that, please do let me know, because I don't believe that's being said out there, because they don't want to be laughed at. They're trying to be taken seriously. Well, who wouldn't? And it should be taken seriously. But that is the reality, that you can connect with them in meditation, in trance, yeah, deep relaxation states. I teach something along that lines, train a modality where I teach people how to make direct contact through deep relaxation, which is absolutely real. You can almost like feel them and see them, and then maintain contact on your own once you learn this modality that I've been trained to teach. So there's so many ways to connect with loved ones in the spirit world. And if somebody wants to maintain that relationship, they should know that they can. But you see, our world, our society wants them to move on because they don't understand this. Like, how do you handle that, right? How do your friends and your family, most of them are not going to understand it.
Yeah.
But does that make sense? But also, I've heard mediums say, and even recently, say to me, the veil is supposed to come down, that the two worlds are supposed to be one. So I said to them, well, how does that happen unless people are not making direct contact? Because it's not going to happen through mediumship readings, because that's not direct contact,
Right. And
as
that
wonderful
was,
as they are.
I wanted to address that too, because you and I had talked about it before we started recording.
Right.
And I'm a medium. And one of the things I said, well, I was saving it for now, is that I do tell my clients. I've had a client who lost her mother. We had a beautiful reading, and then she's texted me. She's so sweet. We stayed in touch. And she keeps saying, like, I just want to talk to her again. Can I book a reading? And I said to her, listen, I don't want you to come to me because first of all, I don't know that I can bring more than I already did, but I said, I'll be happy to help you connect with her, because I think that's the most important thing that you're going to need in to carry through. Now, I said, I know you want something more tangible. I know you want to see her. I know you want to touch her skin and hear her laughter and speak with her. And I said, yes, I will do a reading for you, but I want to wait some months so that there's more information for me to validate. But I said, I've given her in the meantime,
Yeah.
meditate. Here are some ways. And I said, I know you're going to think you're not receiving messages. It's going to take time, maybe, but you are receiving them. You just have to know how to look for them, how to feel them. And I said, she may be coming to you in a dream, but you're just not aware of it. So I said, just keep asking, connect with her, because
Right.
you don't need a medium to connect with your loved ones. The only reason that I do what I do is because people aren't trained. I call myself a spirit translator. Most people are not trained to understand the language of spirit. I've studied for years and I'm only in the beginning. my mentor always says, you're a baby medium. I've been doing this 2.5 years. So I still feel so far like from where I want to be. And I get
Yeah.
stronger and stronger, but I don't tell people I am the answer. I also would never tell somebody, this is the way things are, you're going to die. Or as you said, you'd mentioned somebody had said, like, they'd been going to mediums that would tell them, well, if your loved one, if your partner and you are communicating, well, he or she must be stuck here. That's,
Yeah.
I don't believe that personally, so I wouldn't say that. But even so, we're human. As mediums, it's not our job to project our human beliefs on other people and to tell them, well, this is, what this is the truth. I don't believe that. I think you have a very strong connection. And I had shared with you what you were just talking about, that I have shared an out of body experience with a living person,
Yes.
is in my soul blended in the quantum field, and it's somebody I'm very spiritually connected
Yes.
with, and I know it's real because it blew me away, and I wouldn't have even known that it was when I was in that space of meditation and he was there. I spoke telepathically to him and I said, this is real. I know this is real. And I came out of it and he texted me and told me that he had just experienced the same thing. And so I have
Okay.
proof that it was real because we both experienced it and saw the same thing at the same time. So if we can do that with other living beings, with their souls, it doesn't
Yeah.
change just because the body's gone.
That's the only difference is they don't have a body and they can't, come into the body and be here because they're this higher energy now. But the soul can communicate across time and space.
Yeah.
And I've heard of other people still in a body who are having some experience you're talking about with somebody who's in a body where they're connecting on this other level. And what I learned in this journey was that even right now, as you and I are sitting here, there's parts of us that are doing other things in this reality that we don't like. When I started doing teaching Reiki and practicing Reiki, I would tell people, yes, I'll work on you, I'll do healing on you tonight. And then I'd kind of forget about it. Something would happen and they would still get healed. And my guide said, that's because part of you went to go do it
Oh, interesting.
anyway. And that would happen to me so often. And I'd feel bad, like, I forgot. And they go,
Yeah.
no, I saw you there. You were here healing me. And I said, I guess I was. What,
Yeah.
because we don't understand who we are, that our loved ones in spirit are multidimensional. So are we. While we're still here, we're multidimensional. We just cannot remember it because if we did, we'd go a little crazy.
Yeah.
We're doing all these things, okay, but we're a soul right now, right? And the greater part of us is still on the other side. There's only a small part of myself I put into this body to be here in this reality. The greater part of me is there. So why couldn't I talk to my loved ones when I'm
Right.
already there? I just need to get over my disbelief. And with clients, their thing, the thing that why it's tricky with someone wanting mediumship readings is because people are just inclined to want to believe somebody else. They don't believe
Yeah.
in themselves, they believe in you, right? And as you know, this takes practice. And Alan says that most people, they're just impatient. We live in such a distracted world that people just looking for the easy way. But this is not something that comes easy. It's something, he says, that will take time, and then it matters what their loved one on the other side, how ready are they? Like, what can they do? Because they're not all the same. When he left this world, he told me he was going to be helping the souls on the other side to come through to this world with their loved ones. And I said, really? I just laughed. I said, right, you're kidding me. And he goes, no, I'm not. And he made me read a book. And I don't remember what the book was. And he'd say, you'll find out. And I read this book written by Medium. And sure enough, there in the book, she said, yes, there's souls on the other side who help the souls there to come through to the earth plane because a lot of them can't do that. They don't have the ability to do that. They have to learn how to do that. So then he starts laughing at me, saying, I told you this is what I'm doing on the other side. I was here as a teacher when I was in the body. I'm over there teaching still. It's just I'm teaching souls there. You're teaching the souls here, and we're working together. I'm working with their partners in the spirit world. You're working with the loved ones in the physical world because they need help too. it's not just down to us in a body, because people think that somebody dies and now they got all these powers and they're enlightened and they're powerful. Like, well, some of them are, some of them aren't. You know, they're all over the place. And he says, but all of them want to come through to their loved ones here. And he says, so I'm helping them do that. And recently, when my last live I did yesterday, actually, somebody said that I started to sound like Alan. Like, I started to speak like him, a masculine voice. And I said, yeah, he's been threatening to come through me. And I start channeling him. But I saw him on the other side working with all these souls that were probably the partners of people in my group. And some of them had experiences of their partner because we guided them through an exercise. So some of them experienced them, like felt them. So we're going to work with that. We're going to work with people, with him on the other side doing his thing and me here doing my thing. And I don't know if anybody else is doing what we're doing, but because, we've studied this for 35 years, worked in this field for 35 years, and now he's on the other side saying that this is what he's doing, and I'm stepping into this work, which has only found me now at this late point in my life. But yeah, so we'll help people reach through the veil because we are multidimensional, and why can't we? And humanity's ready. They weren't ready. They weren't ready. He's saying, okay, he's telling me, remember, there's been so many deaths because of COVID. So when the world goes through a great loss of life, like it did the time of the World War I and World War II, if you remember, that's when mediumship in the Western world came through. I mean, they were always here, but it became more public, right? Became more popular with the Fox sisters, what was happening in New York in their home and their raps and taps on the wall. Well, that was because the other side knew that we would need help because of the loss of life that was about to happen. And so spirit always comes through when we are in troubled times. And we are in those times. And Alan has said it's going to get worse. And he said that people won't be able to afford it, perhaps, to go to a medium. Or maybe they'll be able to find one that's really genuine. And so what are they going to do? So spirit wants to go direct. And there are ways to do that. So the first thing is that people just believe they can.
Yeah.
Right?
It's the trust. In fact, that brings me to one of my questions that so Alan passed away and you had already studied the art of channeling, right? But for people who might not have that experience, how did you know that it was Alan? Here's the question. When you're a medium,
Okay.
sometimes people have this idea that it can be difficult to communicate with your loved ones in spirit because it can be hard to be objective, right? Like how I already know that person. So how do I know I'm not just imagining my grandma saying, calling me chickadee, because that's what she called me in life. So how did you, Pamela, know the difference even as a medium, right? Because I mean, I'm a medium and I receive things through imagination. So I will hear, but it's really my own thought. I will
Right.
see, but it's my own in my mind's eye. So
Right.
sometimes I'll ask a loved one in spirit, can you give me a message? And I just kind of go by trust. Like I felt that he was saying this and I'm just going to trust it. So how did you know, or when was or can you even tell me like the first time if you
Okay.
remember?
Well, I'll give you, and this is in the book, the way that he proved to me that I wasn't making it up.
Yeah.
And it actually happened about, see, he was born on August 6th, and my birthday is August 19th. So almost 2 weeks after his passing was my birthday because he died on his birthday. He chose that date, by the way, to make
Wow.
a point. See, I chose the date, and he even got,
Really?
yeah, he chose the date of his death, and he appeared to my friend Swati, appeared in her room saying, "I'm leaving today," and she was like horrified, like, "Oh my God, is Pam okay?" But he hadn't left yet. But what happened was all this communication was happening, and I didn't not believe it because I I I couldn't make up this love. It was so surprising to me. I was just, I feel this grief, and then this love would come in and go, wait a minute, it was like a roller coaster.
Right.
Grief and then love, grief and then love. And then, oh, all right. But then he finally, on my birthday, he really came in with the love on that day, right? He even surprised me with a birthday present out of the blue. I don't know how he managed to do that, and it cracked me up, but I won't go into that. But that night, because it'd been so intense all day, all this love and all this energy was really through the roof. And I thought, all right, he gave me a gift too. I'm going to get something amazing tonight, right? It's my birthday night tonight with him because it was already coming through and really filling me with all this love and passion at night. So I really assumed that, really did. And that night when I turned off the light, he was nowhere to be found. I was like, Alan, where are you? Nothing, nothing. All this time I'd hear him in my mind. I'd feel him. Nothing. Couldn't feel him, couldn't hear him, couldn't see him clairvoyantly, nothing. And I was really upset. I was really upset. And I was crying and I said, where are you? Like this is mean of you or whatever. I was just really upset. Went to sleep, really upset, woke up, heard him talking, and explained to me what happened. He said, I'm so sorry that I did that to you, but I wanted to prove to you that you cannot conjure me. You can't because you tried. And I said, I did. I tried to see him. I thought maybe if I just visualize
Yeah.
him, right? Maybe if I just imagine, like I did everything that one might do because I wanted so badly to see him, feel him on my birthday. So I did all that. I know how to do that. I know how to visualize, I know how to do that.
Yeah.
Nothing. Or what I did see was flat. And I knew that wasn't him. But I'm just like painting a picture. It's not him. Okay. Didn't feel like him. Didn't the energy wasn't there. He says, I needed to prove to you that it's me. I'm the one in control, not you. So I was here, but I was just out of range because I promised you I'd never leave you. And from this moment on, I'm never going to do that again. And I'm always going to be with you unless you say for me to go. But I'm always with you. And I mean, always, always, and in all ways, never leaving your side. It's up to you to tell me to go if that's what you want. But I was just shocked, like, and I took me a whole day to recover because I was still hurt. He said, I'm
Yeah.
so sorry, but I knew that on that day of all days, you would expect it. And when I wasn't there, you would try to make it happen, which you did, and you couldn't do it because you can't.
Right.
You can't. So just accept it. Okay. Can you hear me accurately 100%? No, because nobody in a human body can do that. Nobody who's physical can hear 100% accurately. Since they're telling you that, whatever. But can you hear most of what I'm saying? Yes. Yes. 80, 90%? Yes. So go with that and just listen to what I'm saying, believe in what I'm saying, and if you go with it, it gets stronger and it'll be more accurate. If you just trust it, question it all the time, you're just shutting it down. You're just blocking yourself. You have to go all in. Now that doesn't mean that even now I don't have moments where I go, really? Like,
Yeah.
really? Um, because as long as we're in a body, we're going to have that part of us that goes, I'm not sure about this. But that
Yeah.
voice gets, fainter and fainter. And I think that voice only gets louder again if we're going through something on a human level where we're in our fear or issue coming up or something, right? We're tired or what have you. But normally it's like that's not there. Also, what I've learned is, they're on the other side, and it's not like they're this static being, like they're always going to be in a certain mood, or they're going through things. Sometimes they're more quiet than other times. Other times they're more, like outgoing or whatever, and they're still learning and growing and all that. But they're there, but we can't expect them to be. He's saying like, yeah, like he's saying like a cardboard being that's always the same, like a robot, like I'm always happy, always, saying something wise. Sometimes he's very silly. He'll put words in my head and I'll go, what does that mean? And that's how I know that it's not me. I
Right.
go, I don't even know what you're talking about. I have to go look that up.
Mm-hmm.
So he just says we just have to trust what we're experiencing. And for the longest time, I thought I wasn't seeing him. I was telling my friend who can see him really clearly. She's very clairvoyant. And she said, you can see him. And he's saying to me that you can see him. You just don't believe it. You think that it's not real because you're seeing him in your mind's eye, but you're seeing him exactly the way he is. And I would get confirmation. And she goes, so just believe it already, because if you accept that, what you see in your mind's eye, this is why I tell my clients all the time, believe what you see in your mind's eye, because then that will grow stronger. If you don't believe in it, it's not going to happen. You got to
Right.
start where you're at. Like, so you see something, accept that, because when they come into our field, we're seeing them. Like, it'll just pop into my head, like, oh, he's standing behind me, like nibbling on my neck or something.
Yeah.
And I'll be washing dishes. Why is that coming to me? I wasn't thinking of that. I was just washing dishes.
Yeah.
And it would pop into my head. Or I'd see him dressed in a certain way and I start laughing. I go, why the heck are you dressed like that? It wouldn't be something I'm going to create because it looked really crazy, but that's how my husband is. He'd be really crazy like that. Or even wearing something that's more serious, which would surprise me too. Like, why are you dressed in a suit? What? What is this about? So I learned that I just have to accept what I'm perceiving. And the clairvoyance has gotten stronger because sometimes, for example, I'll think, oh, where did I put that? Where did I put my glasses? And he'll throw me this vision in my head and I'll see it. Oh, okay, it's in the kitchen. Like, I
Right.
know that's him
That didn't
saying
come
in
from
the kitchen.
you.
Right. He could
Yeah.
have said it's in the kitchen, but instead he says he's teaching me how to develop my clairvoyance more. So he threw me this flash, this image, right? And then go, oh yeah, it's over there. They can do that. That's not hard. But we have to just go with that, right? And not dismiss it and say, I'm making it up. I'm imagining it.
Right. And I even this is reminds me of I had a reading the other day where we had determined already that this woman's aunt had taken her own life. So I knew that it was a suicide death. And she said to me, "Can you tell me to ask my aunt what it was that what I did for what she asked me to do for her for." She said in Ireland we have sort of like it's like a wake. It's kind of like where you sit Shiva, but you have the body in the house. And she said, "Can you tell me what it was that she told me to do?" And without even thinking, I just said yellow ribbon and a song that you played for her. And then I went, "Oh, isn't Yellow Ribbon suicide?" Now, I don't think Yellow Ribbon when I think so. That's not my
Right,
association.
right.
And so I thought I was like maybe somehow my brain made, but I knew it didn't because it came in so fast.
Stuff.
It was like I should have said Yellow Ribbon and she said, "Yes, I made a little I forget what it was, but a little thing where she's like, and I put a yellow ribbon in it, and it was sort of like a pendant or something." And then she said yes, and she also asked me to play a particular song, and it was "Wind Beneath My Wings" by Bette Midler, and she said, so I did that. So I knew that yes, I could have, if I were in not channeling, I could have guessed a yellow ribbon because associated the two, but I knew that didn't come from me because that's not what I wasn't even sure if that was a suicide awareness symbol. I had to Google it and said, I guess that's what that is. I think I have a mild awareness of it, but it definitely didn't come from my brain. And so I know what you mean. It's like you
Yeah,
just, whatever comes first, you just trust it. That's
yeah,
the quick flash.
yeah.
I know that's what it is.
And Alan told me that it's actually not as difficult as people think for a loved one to connect with their loved one in a body because of the bonds of love. It's the belief system. It's really
Yeah.
that. It's nothing to do with they have to study to be a medium, although that can help, obviously.
Yeah.
At the same time, he recently showed me online. It's so funny how he shows me, like, we'll see this medium in some Facebook group somewhere who is a very strong medium. She can't connect with her husband.
Right.
Like she can't, she's really frustrated. I can't connect with him. I don't see him. It's like he says there's something else going on there. See, it's not about psychic abilities telling me. There's other things that could be blocking it. And for somebody who has no background in psychic matters, because we're all psychic anyway, everyone has a soul. Well, hello, you have ability because you have a soul. So, and if the soul on the other side is strong enough, they can come through, and that person could have these visions or have these sensations or have this contact. but because they dismiss it because they think, well, I'm not a trained medium, they
Right.
just think that they're making it up. He says the, he's saying, actually, he says that's the sin. He's using a strong word.
Mm.
That's the greatest sin, is that people are told that they're crazy or making it up. And the spirit world, he's laughing there, he says, the spirit world's kind of getting fed up.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, would you guys stop calling these people crazy or telling them that it's their imagination, where we're trying so hard to communicate, to say, it's me, listen to me, I'm going to talk to you, I'm trying to come through. Could you just believe me? Because they're literally standing next to them saying, hey, hey, hey,
Right.
I'm right here.
Yeah. I think
Just
that's
believe.
really, it's
Just
true.
believe.
And I know that you have a group and that you also are going to offer a course that can help people to you have a free group for people that want to connect
Right.
specifically with their love partners, just
Partner,
to be clear,
partners
but
or
then
spouses. Yeah.
partners or spouses, but you're also going to be launching a paid course if people are interested in that as
It's
well.
it's going to be a paid program or membership,
Hmm.
and there'll be two levels to it. And if they're in our group, they'll hear about it, because it's going to be connected to partly to our book that we're writing, that's coming out on Valentine's Day in 2023. Supernatural Love is the name of our book. He gave me the name of that book, and he told me to buy the domain name for that. And I said, it can't possibly be available. And he said, it is. Go look. It's going to cost you a bit of money, but you need to buy it. And it was. And I bought it. And so our website is supernaturallove.com. And the name of the book is Supernatural Love, a true story of life and love after death. And yeah, in the free Facebook group is where he told me that we would always work with people for free. I go live every Tuesday in the group and do a little, I wouldn't say it's a class, but definitely a presentation, talk, a training, give people experience. Like this last past two Tuesdays, we did something called Connecting through the Veil. And yesterday I guided people, for the first time, I guided people to connect with their spirit helpers and then ask the spirit helper to bring their loved one through. And some people had an experience. So this was Alan working, this is what he said he wanted to do. So I knew that he was working on the other side, facilitating that. And some people had experience. And the good thing about, the lives, and we of course record it, right? And we're keeping that in our program for people to go and rewatch. Because as you know, on Facebook, even if you have a group, it's really hard to get to access the content. It's not like it's
Yeah.
easy to navigate. So we're putting all of our content, we have a lot of content already, and putting it in on membership platform. And we're going to keep teaching. In the program, we're going to go deeper, like teach channeling, teach people how to um, connect in different ways. Like we probably will explore lucid dreaming in our membership at some point. We will definitely teach channeling. I've taught channeling for a long time, for many years. Ellen and I both did that. So we'll be teaching people how to channel. We'll be encouraging people to write their own story. Like I wrote our book, encouraging people to channel them through their writing, because he showed me that that was a really powerful way for people to have that evidence that is tangible. Because one thing to talk telepathically, but then you don't have a record of that
Yeah.
because you're just talking mind to mind. There's so many times when he said to me, could you just sit down and write this? Because I want you to remember it. I want you to look back at it. So our book is basically, most of it is our story, but a lot of it is him communicating and sharing and explaining to me what was going on and me asking him things. And he said if people wrote their own story that way, of having that conversation with their loved one, they would prove to themselves that they're here. The loved one would be giving them guidance and support and help because they can. And that is, to me, probably one of the most powerful ways to have that confirmation, to prove to yourself that you really are talking to your loved one in spirit, even beyond the telepathic, even beyond the hearing them in your mind, right? Because, like I said, that just vanishes like dew on the grass in the morning, right? It's gone. Where'd it go? Like it
Yeah.
went in one ear. Even now, because I kind of go into a trance when he's talking to me, and I go, "What did you say? I don't remember everything you said." So we're teaching that. We're teaching people how to channel through their writing, vocal channel, and all that. And I think that that is a really powerful way to create their own bridge to heaven, as we call it. And the other side really wants that. That's what I really want to emphasize to people is that the other side is coming through, as it always has, to bring humanity inventions, right? Give people ideas for different things. Where do you think people get these ideas? Alan's laughing. He says, "You really think humans are that intelligent?"
Yeah.
No, we're like conduits, right? So the other side plants ideas into different people because they see who's open, and therefore, Edison invents
I was
electricity.
thinking Steve Jobs, like,
Steve Jobs,
how did
any of
people
those
come up
people.
with this stuff?
Exactly. How do they come up with this stuff? When you're in a body, he says you're not that smart. Sorry. He goes, it's the other side. It's all inspired, meaning of spirit. So they just look for who's open. So right now they're saying we're here to help you make direct contact because it's necessary. You're not going to be able to go pay for a reading, and even if you can, to try to make direct contact to prove to yourself, because then nobody can take that away from you,
Yeah.
and you've got that. And sure, go to a medium or a psychic, whoever, for confirmation, and that's fine. But we're trying to teach our clients, our students, to not do that so much, not rely on that so much, because it becomes a crutch.
Yeah.
And I know of people who've gone to a gazillion mediums and they still don't believe. Like,
Yeah.
and the mediums tell them all kinds of phenomenal things, and they still have a hard time believing. That's not the way. That's just maybe, I think, the start of the journey to say, I want to see that it can be done by somebody. Then we should say, how do I do that for myself? How
Absolutely.
do I do that for myself now that I know you can? And for mediums to not, I know you're not doing this, but for mediums to not tell people, well, you have to train for, many years, like you have to sit in circle for 40, 50 years. Like
Yeah.
Alan is just shaking his head. He's like, that is the old way. If you want to sit in circle to build the energy for the physical medium to bring through, and it's amazing for them to bring through somebody from the other side in physical form, go for it. But that's only helping that one person with their loved one. You can't, that physical medium can't serve the world. This is not enough. People want more, and they don't have time to sit in circle for 40 years and
Right.
help somebody else
Right.
become the physical medium. That's still going on, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. That's incredible. But we also need this for the people who
Yeah.
are ready for this. You're ready to go direct, because, like I told you earlier, Spirit created, literally created, a modality called Loving Heart Connections, explained in our book. So Alan guided me to find it. He had guided me initially to find read a book called Induced After Death Communication. I don't know if you're familiar with that
Mm-mm.
book, but it's a similar process of direct communication, except that it is not something that you can practice yourself. It's something you have to go to a therapist who's trained. But Alan wanted me to read that because he wanted me to know that this is possible. He wanted to show me that the other side was coming through, because the phenomenon was happening in the psychologist's office. People were having visitations. Spirit was coming through to ordinary people. This guy's not a medium, he's a psychologist. So what is that about?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He wasn't sitting in a circle. The psychologist is working
What
with a
was
patient,
what was the
and
name
it
of the book again?
induced after death communication
Induced after death
by
communication. Was that because
Dr.
I was wondering?
Alan Botkin.
Yeah, I was wondering, I don't know if it was him, but I had heard about a therapist that figured out that through doing EMDR,
Yes,
I
this. It's
rapid
through
eye movement.
EMDR. Yeah, it's this.
Was that him?
It's that. But
Yeah.
the challenge with it is that you have to put the patient back into their trauma, because
Yeah.
EMDR is a trauma therapy. And so to do the IADC, you need to be a licensed professional, because yeah, if you're going to put people in a trauma,
Yeah.
you've got to be careful.
Yeah.
And the problem is you put people in a trauma, but then they get re-traumatized, and guess what? Some of those people can't get out of the trauma now,
Yeah.
because
You
they
have,
healed it once and now they're stuck in it again.
yeah.
So it does. And interestingly enough, when I discovered it, and I happened to Google it and find their website, and I was searching for a therapist. Unfortunately, this is a therapy that you have to see in person. That's another limitation. You have to see a therapist, has to be in person.
Yeah.
I found out that somebody I knew was the only therapist in Honolulu. She happened to work like this down the road from my house. And I had lost touch with her. And I contacted her and said, "Wow, you do this modality?" She goes, "Yeah." She says, "I do, but it doesn't always work." And she doesn't really promote it. And I thought, why doesn't she promote it? Because, and then I realized, Alan said to me, because licensed psychologists and therapists are not going to go out there and tell the world that they help people talk to the dead.
Right.
They're going to offer it to clients who need it, but on the under the table.
And can you clarify, because I forget exactly how it worked, but I remember
Okay, yes,
seeing,
I'll
yeah,
explain.
about what it is about the
I'll explain it because it's
perfect.
similar to and yet different from what I eventually got trained in. So let me finish that little story. Like I read that book and I said, "Why did you have me read this book when I can't learn it? I'm not a licensed professional and I don't want to work with people in person and like this is crazy." And he goes, "Just wait, just wait." So what happens about a month later, almost a month later, I'm online and he says, "Look at that video." And I watched this video. It's of this woman named Dr. Jane Bissler. She's being interviewed by somebody and talking about her modality called Loving Heart Connections, which does involve direct after death communication, does use similarly to his modality, does use bilateral stimulation, which adds another component to it of a metronome, right? And I'm listening to her, and I was fascinated, but it was really late, so I kind of nodded off because I was watching on my iPad in bed, and I nodded off. And then I know Alan jerked me awake because all of a sudden I woke up when this person was asking her, "Oh, and do you train Reiki practitioners?" And she said, "Well, I haven't yet because I'm teaching my first class to licensed professionals only, but I do plan to teach lay people like Reiki practitioners. And I'm a Reiki master." So so Alan said, "See, so you're going to have a session with her, and I want you to take her training." I said, "Okay, but it's probably like way in the future because this was September. I was watching that she did the interview, and this was like late January. So I thought, well, who knows when she's going to teach lay people, right?" Well, I emailed her right away. She got back to me in a few days, and she said, "Well, actually, I am teaching a class for lay people." By then it was February. She goes, "I'm teaching it in March, and I have 2 openings remaining, but you would have to have a session, and I'm booked up. But today, somebody just canceled. Would you like that appointment? Because you have to have a session first before you can take the training." So it all just fell into place. I had my first session with her on 2/22/22, which was my late father's birthday. I felt like everything came together as it often happens in my life. And I took the training and experienced Alan in the deepest way I ever had and became a facilitator and immediately told the clients I already had that had booked other sessions with me about it. So some of them said, "Oh yeah, I want to have that. I want to have the Living Heart Connections." So at this point, I have worked with about 45 people. This week, I'll work with another 3 more. So I'm nearing on 50 since March of this year. I actually kind of had to go back, take time off from it because I had about focus on the book. But it's one of the ways. And Jane said that she didn't even want to work with Loving Heart Connections. It was spirit that kept bugging her. And she'd say, "No, no, she's retired and I'm retired. I don't have time for this." They kept bugging her. And interesting enough, she was having the phenomenon like Dr. Botkin had of people in her practice having visitations while she's working with them in EMDR. Okay. They would see their loved one. She was working with bereaved parents in her case. He was working primarily with, I believe, military, with PTSD. She's working with bereaved parents. They both have loved ones showing up. She reaches out to him because she heard about him, asked him to talk to her about his experience. And he said he was writing his book and that she'd have to wait till the book came out. And she didn't have time for that. So she just went back to doing her thing. And Spirit told her that to do it her way with the bilateral stimulation, to add the metronome and everything that she's taught me that we use in the modality is what Spirit said. So I know, and Alan said to me, yes, Spirit is behind the modality, that they're facilitating it on their end. And so we can't say everybody's going to have contact, because we can't really guarantee that, but a lot of people do. I think I've only had one person that just couldn't even do the modality because she couldn't handle the metronome,
Yeah.
even though that client had physical sensation from the other side. A lot of times that can happen. I had it in my session. I felt Spirit like tickling my nose, and I felt physical stuff happening, and then saw things and heard things. But because the other side is working on it. I've had in sessions people, let's say, want to connect with their spouse, but their pet shows up first. And that didn't happen, because they were surprised, like, oh, my dog Fluffy, like, what? Like, I was expecting him, and he comes bounding through in their session, and then their loved one comes through after that. So things like that can happen. So again, whether somebody wants to have a session like that or not, I'm just trying to say that the spirit world is actively engaged in reaching us and wants us to get to the next level. So it's great that people are taking mediumship courses if they are also in it to connect with their loved ones directly, and not just because they want to be a medium. I mean, that's great if that's really what they feel guided to do, but I do think a lot of people are trying to learn mediumship to make contact for themselves.
Yeah.
And I would like to see more mediums encouraging that and finding a way to help them to do that, or at least believing that they can,
Yeah.
instead of telling them their loved one is earthbound. I know the difference because I've met somebody whose husband is earthbound, has been earthbound for many years, and he's not happy, and she's not happy. And his energy is really heavy, and he's depressed, and she's depressed. So this is not something anybody wants, but he can physically kind of appear and even make contact with her, physical contact. But I use this as an example of how just the physical contact isn't what it's about. It's about, you want to feel this love, this amazing love that they can have for themselves and us. But if they're earthbound, that's not there. I'm sorry. They're still in their ego, and they still have fear. They still have issues. In this person's case, I think he was murdered. The one that I'm talking about, the man that was earthbound. So he's got a lot of anger. They're not healed, right? They don't have the benefit of being in the earth plane and enjoying it with us, but neither do they have the benefit of being on the other side and all the healing and the joy and the love that they can experience there. So they're really stuck. And in his case, he's staying to be with her, and he doesn't want to leave till she leaves this world, which she says is going to be soon. So that does happen. It's nothing to be afraid of, but nobody wants their loved one to be earthbound. That's when they
Right.
could cross over and still come back.
Right.
Come
Well, I
back
just
and
want to thank you so much for sharing this, because I think so many people are not aware. And I'm actually going to be teaching some down the line, spirit communication, for that reason, because
oh, good.
I have people wanting come back to me, and I it's not even, I mean, I would love to meet with them again, but I had a woman who said, "Can I just meet with you every week? Because I just would like to." And I said, "I don't even feel I could be of service to you. Like, I would, yes, I could take your money and be like, great, I have this ongoing client, but it wouldn't feel right to me, because I don't think that I can be that's not being of service to you.
Yeah,
I don't know that I can really even do that. I don't know that I can give you more than I've already given. And I'd rather have you learn to have that connection directly so that you don't need me." I love doing it, like you said, and but if we can all learn that we don't need a medium if we really want to learn it, and so I just thank you for that message and for showing up today. Where can we find you? I know that you're pretty booked, but if people do want readings, or I know that we have your Facebook group. Is that where we find
right.
you, or is there? And you
Well,
have a YouTube
well,
channel as well.
I do have a YouTube channel. I I'd say, well, they can find me through my website. Well, it's funny, my website's being redesigned, so it's
Yeah.
kind of hard. Even it's really odd. I have a website, and you can't even contact me through my website because right
That's
now
why I was
it
asking.
exists there. You can go there and you can actually book a session through my website. But if you want to try to connect with me, let's say send me a message. Right now,
Yeah.
nothing is happening on that end, but you can book sessions through my website. But the sessions are limited right now because we're moving into this program, but there still are some openings. But we really want to encourage people to join our Facebook group if they want to learn more and they can connect with me. I am very much engaged in that group. And as I said, I teach live every Tuesday. It's at 1 p.m. Hawaii time. Right now it's 4 p.m. Pacific. Of course, the time's going to change, right? Because the time, daylight savings, is all that's changing. But right now it's 4 p.m. Pacific and 7 p.m. Eastern.
Hmm.
Soon that will be what, like 6 p.m. And I don't know, I get all the time kind of screwed up, but it's 1 p.m. Hawaii time because that's my time zone here. But we're always live there every week. And Alan says we'll be doing that maybe forever. I don't know. He's really keen on outreach and saying that we agreed to help people for free in that group. If they want to go in deeper with us, then there'll be the membership program. And even that, we're going to make that as affordable as we can because we really do want to help people.
And
And
it's
that's what we're here for.
soulmatesintheafterlife.com.
Soulmatesintheafterlife.com, or they can go on Facebook and look for that
Look that up.
group,
And your
Soulmates in the
website,
Afterlife.
what's the name of your website?
Supernaturallove.com with
Thank
two
you.
L's.
Okay. Oh,
Supernaturallove.com.
yes, makes sense. Okay. That's
Yeah,
a
that's
good
where you
note.
can
Well,
find
thank
us.
you so much, Pamela Johnson, for being
Oh,
here with
thank
me today. This
you.
is so
Thank you,
interesting, and I
Shannon.
know that it will touch many people. I really appreciate your time and energy.